guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Figure It Out. I'm Wengie, and this is where we try and figure out life together. This week, something really interesting happened to me that I really want to share with you guys. So, right now, I'm negotiating a sort of co founding contract with a friend. He kind of came up and was like, hey, I want to build this AI tech company. Would you like to join me? And so now we're going through a process of negotiating the contract in terms of how much equity I want, what kind of role I want, what am I going to contribute time-wise, and everything like that. So it is a very open negotiation, and I realize I haven't done this for a while because even in my career as a content creator, I had a manager do all this for me. But through this process of negotiation, I found out something about myself that I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like you guys can totally learn from this as well, and maybe you relate. So, as we were going through the negotiation of the contract, I had to kind of state what kind of work schedule I wanted, what is my expectations for equity and pay. And as I was listing down and writing down, I realized okay, so one of the things I wrote down was kind of like, I want a flexible schedule because I have ADHD and that would really work for me in terms of my medical condition and the kind of habits that I have. And guys, if you think that sounds normal, you may have the same kind of pattern that I have that I'm really looking at now and going, is this what I want? Is this what I want to keep repeating in my life? And the reason why this is because I paired every desire or want that I had in this negotiation with a excuse or a kind of victim mindset or like a sympathy mindset. So for example, I could have just written, I want to have a flexible work schedule because that just works for me and I work better that way, right? But I had to write like I have ADHD because I feel like the only way I'm going to get what I want is if that person felt sorry for me or if there was like some unavoidable condition, like a medical condition that I felt like was socially justifiable, that had nothing to do with like, hey, this is just what I wanted. And I was like, why do I do this? Because I read over all my terms and I was like, actually, if I received this would have sounded like just like a bunch of excuses and it wouldn't have sounded like a powerful negotiation. So I kind of checked myself. I kind of went, okay, well, first of all, I rewrote everything and was just wanting to be like confident about what I wanted. Like this is what I want. This is what I want because it works and I want to add to my life. I rewrote everything. Instead of excuses, I was like, look, I really enjoy my life right now. I really want this project to be something that adds to it. These are the things that I need to ensure that I really enjoy working in this project and I can give you my 100%, which is a complete 180 of what I initially had written. So after rewriting this, I really sat down and reflected with myself like, okay, why is this my go-to position? Like, where did this come from? Because I believe that a lot of the ways that we deal with things are just unconscious and just habits that we've had growing up that we just continue to perpetuate basically. And I was like, okay, Wengie, like why do you talk like this? Why don't you feel like you can just ask for what you want? Like I feel kind of shy asking for things, and I think I'm really thankful that for my content creating career I had a manager do all this for me, because I would have accepted super low rates. I would have accepted overworking myself because I feel like I just have a need to please people. I get exhausted, I get burnt out, and then I just get really resentful because at the end of it, I'm like, why am I doing all this? I'm not getting enough back. But also I accepted this condition. So again, this is a pattern. So I started reflecting. I was like, okay, Wengie, why do you do this? Why do you say these things? Why do you feel the need to justify yourself with these exact reasons to ask for what you want? And I realized it came from my little self, my childhood self. I grew up with Asian immigrant parents, and I've covered this in a previous podcast as well. And it's no fault of the parents, but what it does create is an environment where I felt like I was never heard. Like I remember growing up and wanting to be a hairdresser. And my parents would just basically be giving me all these reasons why I shouldn't be a hairdresser. And every time I felt like I had some sort of desire or want, it's like, even like going to a restaurant, I want a soft drink. I wouldn't get it because they would be like, oh, we can't afford it, which is fair. But I felt like a pattern is like every time I was wanting something, even like something as simple as like, hey, I don't want to go to school. And like this is a classic example, right? Because when you don't want to go to school, you have to be like, basically, I felt like I had to be in the hospital before I could skip school. Like even if I was a little sick, my parents would be like, go to school. And that's fair. Maybe I would do that as a parent as well. But also because I wasn't heard in some important issues, such as like deciding what my career would be, especially even when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a psychologist, I wanted to be a graphic designer. And every time I said that to my parents, I was like, hey, this is what I want to be, they'd be like, you're gonna be homeless and broke, and that's not good. And like, fair, but like I felt like the method that they used was something they probably grew up with as well. But eventually it just made me feel like all my desires and wants were unheard, unrecognized, and that like I had to fight basically for what I wanted. I think this struggle of like always needing to fight for what I wanted carried on in my adulthood, even though it didn't need to. Because when you become an adult, you get to make your own decisions, you take responsibility for your life. But I feel like that just never clicked consciously because I guess I never thought about it. And this is why I'm making this podcast, because I want you guys to kind of sit down now and think about it. Like, is this a pattern you guys have as well? Is this are these the kind of things you would say when you ask for what you wanted? Hey, I need this because insert some sort of victim sympathy excuse. If that's a pattern of speech for you, like we need to figure out why and we need to heal that. So yeah, so I realized like, oh my gosh, I've constantly felt like everything that I wanted, I need to struggle for. I need to be in this like convincing box. Like I need to convince them that I want this somehow. When like I feel like if you're in a healthy situation, you don't really need to convince someone that you want something. You can just be like, hey, I really want this. It's important to me. And they should just be able to say, okay, yeah, I respect that that's important to you. How can I help? How can I support you? And I feel like that was the dynamic that was missing in my life. Maybe not even because I didn't get it. I can think of really obvious times when that dynamic was given to me, but I think I lived in this paradigm of feeling like everything needed to be, basically I needed to go down, pitch myself and convince the judge and jury, that I didn't even notice when people were supporting me for no reason. Because I just felt like that never happened because of the way I grew up, I just didn't notice and appreciate it. And that's something I'm gonna work on as well, like just being more aware when that happens and then feeling gratitude for that, because I feel like a lot of the times when you have a certain pattern, there may be things that happen that are outside of that pattern, but because you're so into that pattern, you don't notice. And it just like goes above your head. So now I'm working on trying to just be more aware of when people do blindly support me so that I can convince myself that, hey, my desires are worth supporting and I don't have to convince a judge and jury that they're valid. And I think that this is also a pattern that really ruined a lot of my relationships, because I think I felt like every sort of desire or want that I need that I thought was frivolous, like I had no problem justifying desires and needs that I felt were practical. And practical, I mean sort of like things like being frugal, saving money, being good, being steady and not reckless, being conscientious. All those things I never had to justify because they were behaviors my parents accepted and wanted me to be as well. But anything that like kind of sat outside of that or sat outside a social norm, I really felt like I had to fight for my life to convince people to give me that or say that it's okay. And I realized part of learning to love yourself is just to know that every desire and want that you have is valid and you don't need to convince anyone to support you or to give it to you. I know that may sound really weird because it started being really weird for me when I put it into practice, but that is what I'm practicing right now and slowly healing myself. Like, it's okay to have weird desires and wants, because also being like not neurotypical, like if you want to go to my diagnosis episode on this podcast, you would all know that I got diagnosed with ADHD. I do have wants and desires that are really weird. And I always felt like I never fit in because of these things. And I always felt like I had to hide those or, yeah, like fight for my life and justify them. But I realize now that I should completely accept myself. And although not all desires and wants are healthy for me, I should still accept that they exist and that I should support myself in them. So let's go into how this could literally ruin your relationships, because as I was reflecting on it, I realized, hey, this may be the reason why some of my relationships failed. So how this pattern really manifested in my relationships that did not help is like it manifested into not being able to communicate my needs and wants and also avoiding confrontation. So I feel like I do communicate certain needs and wants that I feel like are acceptable, but I feel like in all relationships, we do have needs and wants that are kind of strange or not what is, acceptable. And I feel like someone that's really like, hey, I deserve my needs and wants to be met is able to just say them. But for me, I found it really hard to ask for what I wanted. Like if they gave it to me, I'd be happy, but like I would always like avoid the confrontation of going like, hey, I want you to do this more. You know what I mean? So I feel like there were times where there were things I really needed in a relationship, and instead of asking like, hey, I would like you to plan more dates, I would see that my partner is busy, try to be understanding, and just kind of swallow my needs and wants. But I feel like over time, what happens is I realize I just developed a huge amount of resentment from not stating what I needed and wanted. And also, it's hard to really figure out how compatible you are if you're not super upfront with what you wanted. And so I would have these really long relationships, which I thought were successful. But I realized they were long because I just adjusted myself to whatever they wanted. And I didn't really want to kind of rock the boat. Maybe I was secretly scared that rocking the boat would end the relationship. But at the end of the day, looking back, it's like I should have just rocked the boat and had a shorter relationship than have to go through a whole bunch of swallowing my needs and wants, being miserable, being resentful, and then having the relationship end anyways, and then basically wasting a bunch of time. So that's like kind of a reflection. I kind of look back and was like, oh, okay, I see how that contributed, and I see how much time I would have gotten back if I just went and was upfront about what I needed and wanted, even if it felt like too much, even if it felt like over asking. Maybe it isn't. Maybe I'm just not used to asking for what I wanted. And upon reflection, the other thing that I realized is if you have like a want and desire, but you don't feel super confident asking for it, it may be because you don't even know if that's what you want. I think a huge part of this learning and reflection, I realized, maybe also what contributed to largely me not being able to ask what I wanted is also the fact that I wasn't clear on what I wanted, because I felt like I lived majority of the first half of my life wanting to do what other people wanted. And I never considered, hey, maybe I want things and I should do things that I want, even if it like made other people upset at me. I think my number one priority in life was one, not to upset the people around me. And the other thing I subconsciously thought was definitely like if I performed and acted and behaved and achieved the things that people around me wanted, they would love me. And that I wouldn't get love unless all those things were met. I felt like if I disappointed them, if I didn't do what they want, they wouldn't love me anymore. And I don't think that's true. And I feel like it's something that I've learned growing up, that even if that was true, those are not the people you want in life, because you would just be miserable over time. So I think that's another learning. I felt like I wasn't confident in what I wanted because I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't practice knowing what I want. I didn't learn enough about myself from the perspective of what do I want? And that's something I've really started doing in the past couple years. I've kind of just gone back to the drawing board and gone, Wengie, who are you? And what do you want? I don't know what I want. And I think I've also accepted that what I want changes all the time. And it is a process of like, let me try this. Do I like it? And if I like it, maybe I want it. But sometimes the things that you like are also not the things that you want. For example, I really like McDonald's, but I don't want to be overweight and unhealthy. So do I really want McDonald's? No, I don't. I want to be healthy. So it's like actually a really complicated process to figure out what you want, and it does take time. So if you haven't figured it out, it's absolutely fine. Like, it takes a long time. I thought I'd have it all figured out by now, but we're starting this podcast because we haven't figured it out. I haven't figured it out. And let's figure it out. I think that's something else I've come to the realization is like, it's a lifelong process of figuring things out, and there's lots and lots of things to figure out. So let's get to how does this practically work and how do we change this pattern practically? So one thing that I've started doing to change this pattern is to accept my desires and go towards them. So for example, there are a lot of things that I would want before and I would kind of talk myself out of it. Like, oh, for example, I want to eat McDonald's. I would be like, hey, that's not healthy. You shouldn't do it. And I would talk myself out of it. But I realize it's healthy to just kind of go, I'm just going to eat McDonald's today. Not every day, not every week, but sometimes we should just go with our desires and give it a go, because I feel like over time, if you're like, hey, I want to do this, and you actually go do it, you build this trust with yourself that like you deserve what you desire. And then as you do that, you will just automatically start desiring better things. So I think simply on a day-to-day basis, I'm more likely to go say yes to random desires during my day, and that has become a sort of practice for me. The other thing that I haven't started yet, but I know I want to start doing, is just saying what I want as a complete sentence. Not like, this is what I want, because I'm going to start practicing going, this is what I want. The other thing I'm going to practice doing, and I've started doing a bit more lately, is asking for what I want. Like, I need this from you. Can you help me with this? Sadly, like I feel really, really awkward asking people to help me with things. And that's something that's like I used to wear as a badge of honor, like I'm so independent, I'm so self-capable, I love doing everything myself. But that gets really tiring, and that's probably what led to me being burnt out. So I'm gonna have to stop practicing asking for help. And the other day, it's like a really small thing, but I asked my partner to bring up a package from downstairs. Crazily, that took a lot of effort for me and only happened because I discovered this pattern within myself, and I was like, okay, I should stop like asking for things. So like it's baby steps right now, and I feel like it will lead to a more fulfilling life over time. But that's something I'm practicing. And I think another thing that I'm working on is just like daily when you're in stores or you're doing like a service like a skincare service or like you're in a restaurant, I'm working on being more upfront about asking for what I want. Usually, like, even though I'm paying thousands of dollars, I'm like really shy about asking for things, or like, like if you go to a haircut, like, have you ever gotten a bad haircut? Like, I have, and I've just gone, like, I love it. And then, like, I never go again. Whereas I feel like the healthy thing to do would just be like, hey, I don't really like this part of the haircut. And either they can go and fix it, or next time they can do a better job because they're now aware of your preferences a bit more. But it's just like things like that I realize like, wow, I'm so like far from actually just being honest and asking for what I want, that I'm like living this complete lie of this really pleasant person, whereas inside I feel like I hold a lot of resentment because I'm always like, damn, I didn't get what I wanted, but I didn't really communicate it. So like, okay, this is not healthy. And I think this is reflected in when I watch TV shows, I'm always very attracted to the character that is really like spoiled and arrogant. Even though they seem like really difficult people, I'm really attracted to them because I am so far the other way. I want to be more like them. And I think that's something else. Like, if there's certain types of characters you get really attracted to, maybe it's because that part is missing in yourself. And maybe we can go and kind of incorporate some of their behaviors into our life in order to be more balanced as a human being. Because, yeah, I realize like I always love those like, you know, those like spoiled rich girls. And I always have like this excuse where it's like, yeah, it's really easy to act like that when you literally have everything handed to you. But I feel like that's not an excuse. I feel like I can make steps in towards like being more honest about what I want and being more confident about saying what I want. And I think the feeling I really need to get used to as a result of that is just the feeling of rejection or the feeling of kind of friction with someone else. Because sometimes when you do ask for what you want, it makes the other person like I don't want to give that to you. That's too much effort. But I feel like that shouldn't stop you from asking for what you want. I feel like you should be kind about it and work for a compromise, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't say it at all in the first place. But yeah, I think I'm just really scared of that feeling of friction. I'm really scared of making people like upset about doing too much, or that I'm being too much or acting spoiled. There are times where I would go shopping and I would literally spend money because I'm like, oh, that sales assistant spent 20 minutes with me. I feel bad, so I should buy something. But I'm not sure if that's healthy or not. I feel like I should just, if I don't like anything, I should just walk out even though they spent 20 minutes on me, because technically that's their job. But I feel like I'm such a people pleaser that like I would just go buy something so that they, can have some more sales commission for the time that they spent because I felt bad. So we're working on it. I would love to hear from your side what your thoughts are. Have you experienced this? Is this a pattern that you have? Or are you the other way? In which case, like, girl, share with me how you do it because I want to be more like that. So, anyways, I just want to share that with you this week. Let me know down below if there's any topics you want me to talk about in the following podcasts. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it made you think about some of your patterns in your life and be more conscious of them at least. So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Let's Figure It Out, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.